Welcome to the stage of greatness. I'm Danielle Francine, and I have here with me today Buffy, Elizabeth Link, aka Buffy, one of my clients, and also I have the honor and the privilege of calling her a great friend. A woman that I've known for the past, what is it, 3 years
Yeah,
now?
3 years.
3 years. We've worked together. We have shared a lot of things outside of nutrition and workouts with each other, gone through some really crazy times, and I'm super excited to have her here. I'm so grateful that you're here with us today, Buffy. Thank you, thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you, and welcome.
I'm excited to be here. It's always fun talking with you, and there's always fun enlightenments that come from the conversations. That's for sure.
Awesome. Yes, absolutely. And it's it's so cool because I feel exactly the same way. Like I said before, you're not just or only a client, you're a friend, and I feel like we are mirrors of each other, right? So when I'm giving you guidance, your response or your result or your questions is all that I always get insight from you, and I'm also learning from you. So thank you.
Yeah, that's a compliment. And we've met in person once.
Yes, we did. And that was so cool. It's like, well, you're here.
That's right. Absolutely. Super fun.
Yes, for sure. Yes. Hope to have that happen again very soon.
Me too. Me too. And a workout.
Yeah. 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 We will make that a thing. Absolutely. So yeah. So tell us, well, first, so Buffy is our goddess of the month in our tribe, Body by Design tribe. And so what that means is the results that she's had, not only, it's not contained to just a month, but really the results that she's had over the past couple years, not only just physical results, but I mean the mental, the mind shift, the spiritual, just as an entire woman, right? The change that she's experienced in her life is so great that I wanted to, spotlight her and what she's done so that everybody else can see her greatness that she is living now. So, where to start? Okay, so where to start? Let's start with your physical transformation that you've experienced over the past couple years. Tell us a little bit about that, where you were, and I guess really like where you are now, weight-wise, aesthetic-wise, sports-wise, all of the things that fall
Sure.
into that category.
Absolutely. So, I have always been an athletic person, right? So growing up, I've always played a bunch of sports, been really active recreationally. I worked out at the gym consistently, and in 2019, I tore my ACL, which definitely was kind of a setback. Maybe not. Like I know we talk about shift change, everything happens for a reason, but ultimately the result of being not active was a result of a lot of weight gain. And it got to a point where I put a pair of shorts on and was kind of like, what is this? Like, what happened? Why are they so tight? And it's weird because I can kind of reflect back to having a certain moment when I realized it, but yet it was like 5 months after I'd had my ACL surgery. So, and in the Fates That Be, which really is the Fates That Be, I came across a Facebook post and it was you. And it was actually talking about some really interesting information and helping people get to the goals to where they want to be. Um, and some in the divine circumstances of the combination and working with you, I realized that I I knew I wanted to lose some weight, but I vulnerability wise knew I didn't know how to get there. So we worked together on the food portion, worked together on a weightlifting portion, and slow and steady, trusting the process, I lost approximately 43 pounds. got to my goal weight. I've been in a maintaining phase for probably the last year, maybe year and a half. Time's kind of flying by, but um, besides that physical transformation for me, and then seeing all of these results that are you work so hard for, and getting to where you want to be, and reaching the vision that you had envisioned from the beginning, the compliments, people who recognize and notice the work, like people who are watching what you're doing in the gym. I think what's really interesting is opening my eyes to the work that I was doing wasn't benefiting in the way I wanted it to, and it really tied back to the food combination more than anything. And I didn't have the healthiest relationship with food or really understand what I was doing. And man, a light bulb, it's such a light bulb to realize all the work I put in the gym and understanding more what was holding me back, and now seeing seeing that in the gym of what like where I was at. And so I mean, it feels really, really good. I feel amazing. um when Danielle and I first started out, we wrote down 3 kind of affirmations of things that weren't necessarily true, but kind of goal-esque. And I saved that paper still. And it's funny because, when you achieve something like that, you feel really amazing, really amazing. So that's the physical transformation and gains, really.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so cool, like you said, to be able to look back, right, at what you've done. Because as we go throughout our days, it's like, okay, we see ourselves in the mirror every day. We go to the gym, we do the workouts. And then when people start to say things, and then when you have goals that were written down or affirmations that you had, and you're like, I have that. I did that. Yep, that's me. It's so cool because it's here, right?
Yes.
All of your power, you have all of the power within yourself. It's just number one, finding the power. And then number two, yes, I got this, and using it and standing strong in it.
Yes. And especially when you wrote those down, they're like 50-50, right? Like there's some unbelievability factor in there, meaning like I don't necessarily believe I'm going to get there, but it's part of the process. So that's just brings it really full circle, and it's a really great feeling to have.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good, good, good. So when so let's talk about before you signed up, right?
Okay.
Because I feel like one of the shifts that you've also had was how you look at yourself in the way of how you value yourself, right? And your needs, your priorities, self-care, investing in yourself, taking care of your body. And that's something that you and I have talked about frequently is, right, the investment.
Yes.
Whereas many women are either afraid to invest in themselves, they don't feel like they deserve to invest in themselves, right? They're constantly putting their money into their house or their children or their partner or material things. But when it comes to doing something like this, right, they're like, oh no, I cannot spend that money on myself. Nope, I'll just buy some isogenics or I'll Google, whatever. I'll do the whole 30. They're not willing to take that step. So what was your experience like, if you would take us back there, like in that moment or in those minutes when we had our call?
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, yes, it's funny because it's a great lesson too. So I definitely remember having the first call, and and you have an idea in your mind maybe, and this is like on the monetary side, which was the primary focus, which in some ways isn't always the right focus, but that is what makes like the world turn somewhat. So I definitely remember when we were discussing that, what the amount was, and it kind of brought me back, and then it seems like such a large amount, but then for me in the moment, I really wanted to do it. I really enjoyed speaking with you. I really felt the connection. In hindsight, I think there was really a connection that was driving me also, like, do this is going to be like worth it. And then now, where I am now in the hindsight in that moment and being so nervous, it was definitely well worth it. It's a lifelong lesson that I got from this one-on-one coaching. But I the interesting part with what you were mentioning in terms of like investing in yourself, I'm not sure I wholeheartedly believed that it, or that I'm not sure that I fully believed it was a true investment in myself. I think that like I thought that. I'm not sure I really understood what that meant, right? So I like self-care, these different things that we do, and like the isogenics, these different programs. Um, are you really investing in yourself? Are you focused on a lifelong change? Like I think that's where and even in the moment when I went for it, I'm not sure. I think I was like 80% there, but there was a 20% that also was very enlightening to me in what this has brought about. And that's part of the outcome of the decision and pursuing it and being dedicated to it. So I know for sure I have no regrets whatsoever. And if you really want to get down into the nitty gritty of the money part of things, there's a lot of frivolous things that we can spend money on that add up. So in some ways, it's really putting into perspective your wants, your desires, what's going to and benefit, what's going to serve you best.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I love that. And I remember that call so clearly too. And one of the parts that still kind of like jumps out at me that I feel resonated with you or kind of gave you a different perspective on, the investment, the monetary side was energy, right? Do you remember
yes.
that when we talked about energy? It's like, look,
Mm-hmm.
you're investing your time into something, that's your energy. You're investing
Yeah,
your money into something, that's energy. All of these things, it's just a different form of energy, right? So you putting your energy out there is you saying like, yes, I am committing in this way also. And I mean, it all comes back to you.
absolutely.
Definitely.
Like yeah, absolutely. And I said that like there is no there's no way it would be a bad investment like in terms of just it's working with you, but there's no way, like it's all been very positive, everything's been positive about it.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So I was gonna say my favorite part was it's all of your things are my favorite part. Okay. So another favorite part. So, I think that one of the really big things in the work that we do, you and I and myself and all of the other women, it's not only just food, it's not only, workouts, but it is the mindset of it. It's the retraining of your brain, the reprogramming of ourselves, right? To become the version of this woman that we want to be, to have the results, to have the life, to have all of the things. And it's challenging for me sometimes to communicate that to other women, right?
Sure.
Not only
Mm-hmm.
do you need the food and the workouts, but we got to do some like mental work and in the heart, right? We got to heal some things. So I feel that for people to really hear from your point of view some things that you have gone through over the past recent year or two, and how your mindset had changed and how you were able to navigate and gracefully dance through those periods, would be number one, amazing, but number two, I think really helpful also, so that people get the idea of the full picture, right? That you're not just a transformed body.
Correct. No, I would say this has been like when you were speaking earlier about transformation, there's the physical, the emotional, the mental, right? All of these things kind of culminate. And I actually think in some ways the food relationship is almost kind of like a starting point. And it starts opening some doors into like what your relationship on the food aspect is and how you take inherited beliefs and how you do the mind shift from what you used to know, and it's what you used to know because it was what you knew, you didn't necessarily know any better, and then kind of expanding on that. I think a big takeaway in our discussion has always been looking at things that happen for you versus to you. Like that runs through my mind a lot, is things that happen for you and to you. And I really think so it's about perspective. Like that's what the biggest word, or the best word I could use to describe it, is perspective. And as you start experiencing certain things, you things that you recognize, certain things that, like, why am I even worried about this? Like things, letting things go. It's actually like, I don't even know if I've ever really used the term letting it go before I got to know you, and things that don't serve you anymore. So it's recognizing things that serve you now, things that don't serve you, um, things that happen to you versus for you, and really seeing the positivity of what came from whatever lesson you went through. So um I actually, this flows into my life when there's been a lot of trials and tribulations. I think the biggest one that stands out is probably when Sean had passed away, when my boyfriend had died, my live-in boyfriend, unexpectedly, because he chose to take his life. And then wading through everything that came about after that, and then um, kind of moving forward in a healthy manner of what what are the positive things I can take from that. And there's so many nuggets of that relationship that I'm really happy for, and that continue to move me forward. um, on a work side, in terms of what we're talking about, I find there's so much I've learned with um, things going into the DEI perspective, and like that's also like perspective, how you treat each other, how you respect each other. um the positivity side is, I've literally had to tell myself in certain circumstances that if I'm trying to compare myself with someone, like, why, and bringing it back to why am I doing that, and why does it really, it doesn't matter, it's about me, and everyone's on their own journey. um I think it's made, the mental side of things has really made me understand or focus on me. So me, how I want to interpret something, and how much you really want to let it, like, affect you, right? And there's things that can affect you in a great way, but there's some things that could start kind of bringing some negativity. And I think that I've learned from you a lot, working with you, talking with you about that shift. And there's something, it's kind of hard to like actually describe. In your mind, it's like coming in and it's whirl, 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 and as it goes out, it's going in a different way, but it's all based on what's happening in here to make that happen. So I am, I think I've gotten a lot, what I've learned a lot is focusing on the you aspect, and what is going to be benefit, what, like, on you, and not taking something for what it's providing to you, and taking the positivity out of that. um I think in some way, with also like the passing of Sean, has opened up a door into what's important, what's not important. Like, life is short. It's kind of one thing I gathered. You want to live with no regrets. Do the things that, like, make you happy and help you live your best life that you can.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well said. All of it.
Oh, thank you.
And what I really hear you saying is basically you're able to change the lenses that you had on, that you viewed everything through, right?
Absolutely.
Your entire perspective has changed, to where before it was kind of like, whatever flew in and created whatever story, and then flew out, and maybe it was like like a freak out or negative, a different spin on it, to where it flies in now, and you have this filter or this lens of, this is
Yes.
happening for me. What is the positive here? What can I learn from it? In all areas: food, workouts, relationships, right? And it's, that in itself is life changing.
It is. I think the other part to that too is being present. I don't necessarily know how focused I was on understanding what being present means. So, when I'm just this past weekend, I went on a camping trip. Like, hey, I'm here to have fun. You have little, I was a lot of people, like 60 people, family reunion style, and you have these little snippets. And I'm not gonna, the goal is to be present, be there, be unplugged, and get the time with the people that you can. Partly because that's the deep, fun part of getting to know people on a deeper level. That's really opened up some conversations that you can have on the human level. But being present is not something I was cognizant of, I would say, and not something that was kind of a focus or a reminder. And I do think that if you can remind yourself of just being present in the moment, it helps you, to your point, filter. Can't change the past, can't worry about the future, can only live for what's right now. So that's been a great lesson to me, and
Mm-hmm.
changed the way, so I've absolutely changed, I think, my demeanor from what others see from me. Is like, I think it absolutely has changed um the way that they see me. I think I might be a little more relaxed, a little more easy to not get so worked up about certain things, or if you do, it's very very limited. I think it's definitely something that's made me a better person.
Oh my God, absolutely. And I think too, and I love that you brought that up, being present. Because
Yeah.
really, I mean, think about how many people you see throughout the day that they're walking around and it's kind of like they're almost like a zombie. They're on their phone or they're just not there, or you're talking to them and their eyes are like glazed over. You're like, hello? Not
Oh
present,
yeah.
right? But it also changes, like you said, like just your entire state. Like when you're there and you're listening and receiving, you're making that connection, right? You're growing a bond, you're filtering things.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. And then that flows into like manifestation. And I know, um I think that's helped, like that relaxing point, being really present, almost has allowed for manifestation that I can't say is super conscious, right? So like, um perhaps an example, this might be like one for me, is like, you know so my boyfriend passed away in November, and then in January, I was just kind of I'm just working through life a little bit at that point, but I met someone, not thinking anything of it, like, my current boyfriend Randy. I met him in random teaching coaching thing for curling, and didn't think much of it, right? But in as we got to know each other, he would ask me to go do a couple things, like go to a dog park. And I remember being present when I was there and like focusing on what we're discussing. Also having some difficult discussions, just in like, kind of like, are you in a healthy state? Have you handled some of the stuff that you've had thrown at you in a healthy manner? But I then has developed into a really lovely relationship, and it's gains beyond measure somewhat. And I don't know that, like, I remember in my mind knowing I didn't want to be alone. Like, that's something Sean introduced to me, was this great relationship. But like, me being present and being in this force of moving forward and being in the moment and being with someone, getting to know them, I feel like it really opened doors. And I look back and I'm so grateful and appreciative and like lucky that I have had this person come into my life. Like, I am so beyond, like, really lucky and grateful. And I feel like somewhere that manifestation happened within the universe and within myself, without even being something that I was truly super focused on. It's just something that putting out good into the world will turn around and bring some good back to you. So
Absolutely. Give myself a second to breathe. You're
it's
making me
okay.
emotional.
Well, it can be an emotional topic, right? Like, there's so many times where you look at, there's a lot of people who aren't willing to continue to keep their hearts open. And I may have told you the story about, also I had the conversation with a woman. I work in a customer service job. A woman called me, and I had this conversation, and I shared a little bit about what had happened, not going super into detail. And this was right after I'd started to kind of really get to know Randy, and questioned myself. Am I moving too soon? What am I doing? And she was like, the best thing you can possibly do is keep your heart open. If you like keep your heart open, if you close it off, you'll never know what's coming at you. And it's so funny how I remember crying that afternoon. It was like a Tuesday. I remember it was a Tuesday, and I was like, I can't be hearing the words that I needed to hear from someone that I didn't even know. And it was like coming from the divine universe, coming my way, telling me what I knew I needed to hear. And also that I'm on the right track. For some reason that what's the word, like support, like you're doing the right thing. And I don't know that I've ever been so I don't think I've ever been so attuned to that. And I know a lot of that came from working with you, right? Like, yes, this like traumatic thing did happen, and that changes things too, that ties into it. But if you I wouldn't have been so open to understanding these things had I not worked with you. I'll tell you that much.
Mm.
And there's times we work together where I was like, I don't feel like I'm a deep level person. But then it's funny when we talk about certain things, it's just a little bit different way that it comes to me. So,
Yeah. And really, like, you saying, I'm not a deep level person. And at the same time, you kind of are.
so
To have gone through that experience of, losing Sean. And I mean, all of the times that we spoke during that, and what I received from you was, yes, I'm in pain, and I know that this happened, and I'm moving forward, and I'm feeling everything, right? The work that you did, you were so present in that work and willing to do it. And again, pulling all the positive, right? So it's like when we sit in those emotions, even though there's pain, right? This relationship taught me things that I wanted and that I don't want, right? You knew the questions that you wanted to ask Randy. Being in that energy, right, brought that great love into your life in just such a way that it wasn't like, okay, here's your relationship. It was like exactly what you needed, how you needed it.
yeah. And learning about communicating with your partner, like it wasn't poor, but I could do better, right? Like that's kind of one of my takeaways. And I know we've talked about too, like sometimes that book that talks about the phoenix, like you got to get, sometimes you have to get down into the darkest places to be able to emerge from them. And I definitely can say like that stuff, everyone goes through that along the way. And
Mhm.
kind of like choose how you want to take it. And some people, like in this particular book I read, was basically some people are going to shut down and be closed off, and some people will be open and in and move forward with that. So I know for sure where I want to be, right? Open and moving forward, and um living my best life.
Yeah, absolutely. And like if there was a word, like a verb that I would use for you is based like thriving. You're thriving
Yeah.
in every area, right? Relationship, work,
Yep.
the
Yep.
especially what
Yeah.
we're gonna do over the next year.
Oh yeah, I'm very excited. Like it's like I like I said, it's never bad, it's never a bad investment. There's always really good things to come from it, and I'm excited to kind of take it to next level. I don't know well, no one would expect, like you can't say I never expected to be here because we don't necessarily know exactly where we're going, but I am definitely thriving and really really in a good place emotionally, spiritually, so I feel really good about that. um the other thing I wanted to mention too, though, that I think is really important is I have found our work together also has really done things in my professional career, like talking about manifestation and stuff. Again, it really is interesting. Like I feel like I've had this growth and this path at work with a train of success, and I think it's really because of being human and vulnerable with the people. Like I'm a supervisor, so with my reps, it's helping them understand forward thinking, the future self, where they want to be. I can see in so many ways how what we've discussed, perspective, has helped me be a better coach for my team. And when they make a mistake or something happens, I think sometimes like they used to be like, oh, I made this big mistake, and you're like, oh, it's fine, like this is what we'll do, and they're kind of like, oh, So I think there's also like you learn from your mistakes and showing some grace and humility that everyone's going to make a mistake, and that's part of what also makes you better at your job and better in life. So I can see gains in my professional career from this as well.
Mm-hmm. I love that. It's so cool. It's so cool how like learning about food and your
Hmm.
body and working out has such a connection to like everything else.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And it's kind of funny because that also has become my main, like a constant, like I've talked with you, like it's sometimes I know people, most times you hear people who think that what I'm doing is like, if you weigh your food, if you track your food, it's so complicated. It's really not, like it is when you first start because it's a learning process.
Yeah.
But once you get to a point of knowing being a ninja, right? Like a macro ninja, you definitely, it's not as hard as people seem to think. And I think sometimes that's just an excuse or reason to not do it, but you'll never know if you don't try, number
Yeah.
one. And there's so much freedom with it, right? Like I went, freedom with knowing, feeling really good, making really good choices, feeling good about that. Freedom with like unleashing of control or hold that sometimes food may have on you. Like you can still have some really good things. Like the way that your program works is really phenomenal, in that nothing is necessarily taboo or off limits. It's learning how to fit that in and get what you need, but maybe on an extreme level of what it might have been before.
Mm-hmm.
And like doing, I think one of my favorite, I have a lot of favorite lines from you, but when it comes to like food, perspective, and body, when we talked about the kind of body somewhat separate from you, and your body has only done what you've asked of it, and if you really break that down into like when you've been sick, when you've had certain things happen, it is such a real jarring statement, especially if you've been putting not the best things into you versus the good things into you, and looking at your body in that perspective. I think that's super important and a great lesson that people should learn early on, because the body is a phenomenal thing. And if you think and really break down like, oh, what did you feed your body? A bunch of booze and stuff. It's not the end of the world necessarily, but right, like making good choices most of the time and respecting your body, I guess is the way I would say. I don't know that I've had that level of respect my whole life. And there's a lot of times I wish that I had known this at an earlier time in my life, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, everybody that comes in to the program, it's the time for them, right? They're ready to hear those things.
Yes.
There's
Yep.
people, that I'm sure you work with, and you'll say things to them, they're like, yeah, okay, whatever, this bitch is crazy. Right? It's like, no, but listen. But like you've picked everything up, right? And the freedom that you experience with food, being able to eat the foods that you really like or love even. I mean, would you tell us a little bit about like your lifestyle, like the sports, the trips, the like because I think that many women think, okay, well, like I get the whole thing with like macros, and also like how do I eat out? I can't travel. I can't have drinks. I still can't have carbs. Would you speak a little bit to like your experience with all of that?
Sure. Um, sports wise, like I've seen a lot of game, like I've seen games, like most, the one that stands out the most sports wise, I play a lot of sand volleyball and softball, and I'm jumping higher at sand volleyball, which is always like, did you guys see how high I got on that? I almost walked, like I touched it. Like, so there's definitely like gym gains there. On the travel side, you don't want, like, traveling is supposed to be for pure enjoyment. It's not pure enjoyment if you're so worried about like every single to a T little thing. So I think the first thing with traveling is like kind of got to let some things go. It's not letting everything go, but you've learned enough along the way to be able to have a good time and know how to modify. I think the other side to it though is like also having a vacation and going and enjoying it there's nothing absolutely wrong with it. It's what you're supposed to do. And so when you get back into the routine, it's getting back into the routine.
Mhm.
Um, I think one nice thing when it comes to my lifestyle is that the best part about working with Danielle has been knowing, not the best part, but another great part is knowing that you don't have to give up everything because it's not realistic, and knowing yourself to know, like, in reality, am I going to give up booze entirely? Not necessarily, because it's part of my social life and what I enjoy doing. So what do is you kind of plan. It's all about planning and knowing, how to modify and adjust every, like, what your daily intake is, shall I say, when it comes to certain events that you have going on and planning ahead. But I also think there's, with consistency, with building good habits, certain things are never going to throw you completely off the railroad tracks, and that's like it's kind of enjoying what you did, and it's usually for a limited time unless someone's on vacation all year, and if you are, I need to know how.
Yeah, please share.
But I think that ties to, right, like that also ties to being present. You don't want to necessarily be the person who consistently is like, I think about when I'm on vacation, like consistently, like, oh, we can't go here, we can't go here. You don't want to be so restrictive to yourself or to others,
Right.
right? And so, and the reality too is like surrounding people will support you on the journey too. That's, I think, sometimes people like, like um, I've I've led to good habits for other people based on what I do. And like, living with Randy, living with Sean, like if I'm making the dinner, they're eating what I'm eating. And so it's led to really like can change other people as well and help their improvement. But um yeah, I mean, I feel so good because I went camping this last weekend. I didn't put anything in my phone, but I know what I did, and it made no impact. Like you're cognizant and very aware. And I think sometimes you also like, just in part for me and my success in regards to even like daily routines, like I didn't give up coffee, but I also have changed to where I'm use a fat-free like half and half, and it's little changes that haven't affected like my pleasure of coffee, but these little changes have absolutely allowed me to have still the things that I really want.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, what's coming to me as you're talking about all of that, the little changes, right? And, your mindset throughout all of it, it's like the progress and the results, they compound, they're slow and steady, but it's like we look at something and we say, okay, I have this big lofty goal and I want it now,
Mm-hmm.
which I feel like for the entirety of us, knowing each other and working together, you're always celebrating what you've done also. So that keeps you going. You see your progress, you see your wins, and you're like, oh, hell yes. Okay, now this. Okay, great. Celebration. Now this. Right. And in every area, right? You're like, in sports, I'm experiencing this. In travel, I'm experiencing this. In talking to family and inspiring other people, I'm experiencing this. In work, I'm experiencing this. So you're just so wide open to everything, right? And present to everything that is happening as it's happening for you, that it's kind of like you're just riding this wave and you're just going.
And I always say pushing the needle a little bit more. Like I talk about that at work with goals, like just push the needle and setting realistic goals. And that's where the small wins definitely come into play because it can be super overwhelming and it doesn't happen overnight. It
Right.
takes steps to get there, and it takes like step by step to get there. And for me and what we do for work, like that very much translates into the food aspect of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think too, like once you it's kind of like throwing yourself into like a whole like cooking a whole new recipes or doing a whole bunch of things. Stick with like sometimes starting out with some of the basics, like consistent things, then getting adventurous and more adventurous. And I feel like I've gotten also really good at like making some really fun meals. I had a great conversation with someone over the weekend, and he goes, pizza, beer, bread, and they were talking about for them, like he's like, we can cut out carbs to drop weight. And in my mind, of course, you're like, no, but it is funny too because he was talking about how they really like pizza, and I'm like, we don't really eat pizza very often, but I love zucchini pizza boats, which I of course told him about, and you know this. But I was telling him again about another recipe that I'd made that wasn't super time consuming, and he was like, that sounds really good. And I was like, it was. And it's so, I feel like I'm really excited about that. Like I've really ventured out into more recipes that are macro friendly, but also excite me, and I love to eat. And that's a huge, I love to eat food, right? Like who doesn't?
You, yeah. And that's such a cool piece of it too. It's like I'm finding all of these new things that are delicious and I make them and this person loves it, that person loves it. So it's like you're doing so many good things for not only your body but, the people around you too.
Yeah, and having fun along the way.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I
It
love
also is a good relationship builder because I'm as Randy is my sous chef, and it's like, okay, we're gonna do this, but I need you to help.
Yes,
Which is fun. Cooking with your partner in the kitchen is kind of fun.
it is. It is. I do that with John now too. Do you need any help? I'm like, yep, cut up all these vegetables. Okay, thank you. It's great. Cool. So, do you have any guidance or advice for anyone that may be listening wanting to jump into either my program or even a program like this? Actually, let's just say my program because we know what we're talking about here.
Right.
And they're afraid. They're either afraid to invest in themselves or they've tried so many different things and then they haven't been able to achieve the results that they want, right? They're fleeting or they're stuck. What would you say to that woman, heart to heart, from your heart?
From my heart, number one, there are so many, well, how much are you worth? How much are you worth, right? How much are you worth? And how much are you willing to put into yourself? And I think that I was scared about that. This was something that we kind of discussed. So I think on kind of like taking the dive off the ledge, it's well worth it. You're going to be scared to do it, but it's also a driver of commitment, right? Like when you also when you invest a lot in yourself, and in this case, like monetarily wise, I think that gives you the push of making sure it comes to fruition too, right? A little bit like you don't want to just waste money. I don't like wasting money. So I think that the benefits though have been life changing, right? I can say in the last 3 years that they've been life changing. And I would almost say too, it's like a life coach experience. And for me personally, never having experience of working with like a counselor or anyone in the perspective that we work together, I've just seen so many benefits come about. And I feel like I am truly living my best life. And I'm like really taking certain things with a grain of salt, things that might have affected me before. I think I've just really learned really well to keep the focus on stick with the things that serve you, and then work through, you got to work through some things to get to the other side, but it's well worth it. And when you have a really great support system, you can get there. I am 100% a believer and supporter of Danielle's program. I love the gym program. It's really, really easy. It's not super time consuming. So it adjusts well with like my lifestyle and someone being busy. But I think that really the benefits are boundless.
Mm-hmm.
I
Awesome.
highly encourage anyone to take a chance on themselves a little bit, and, see what happens. Because as I remember a lot, like at the end of the conversation, I think I'd asked you what your success rate was, and you were like 100% because I'm fucking good at my job. And I go, I believe it. And that was like the end of like towards the end of our first phone call. And it's like 100% true, like 100% true, And I think like that was part of what I felt from you was like, I believe that you do know how to help people get to where they want to be.
Mm.
And I'm opening some of those blind spots. We talk about blind spots. Sometimes it's hard to hear it, but yet you need to. And that's true too.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So
And thank you for that. And really, like, thank you for being so open and receptive
to the guidance.
to all of the
Yeah.
things, really. I mean, that's why you've had so much success, is because you're open to anything that's put in front of you. And, if it's something that you may not agree with right away, like, you're willing to actually take a look. Like, okay, could this be true? Am I maybe not seeing this from a different perspective? Like, yeah. So, I mean, you're amazing. You're
Ah,
amazing.
thank
I
you.
love you.
I love you too. I've had so much fun. I'm really excited for next level.
Yes. We will definitely be doing another podcast in several months from now. And yep, you're gonna look like a
doing
different person again.
doing evaluation from now to then.
Oh my God, yes, absolutely. All right, awesome. Well, let's wrap it up. Is there anything that you would like to leave us with?
I feel like trust the process is a pretty good example. Trust the process because
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah.
It works.
Awesome.
And you're a great guidance, great support system, really great leader in
Thank you.
that regard. So I trust Danielle, I trust the process, and I would it would be a benefit to anyone who invests in the program because you'll definitely learn a lot from it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that. Yeah, trust. Keyword, trust in yourself,
Yes.
right? Trust
Yeah.
in the process. Yes. And you can always trust in me because I won't ever steer anyone wrong.
Very true.
Yes, awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for being on here with me and sharing your story, sharing you with everybody. I hope that everybody got tons of golden nuggets from Buffy. And yes, I'm sure if you want to reach out to her and speak to her, ask her
Yes.
questions, she would be open to it. If it's okay with you, I'll post your Facebook name. If people want to reach out to you, message, whatever. Um, yeah. And
Yeah, they absolutely can, for sure.
cool. Cool. Thank you. All right, my
You're
love.
welcome.
Thank you. And I'll talk to you in a couple minutes.
Sounds great.
Until next
Bye.
one, everybody. Bye.
Bye, everyone.